Lee can't forget being beaten, having both eardrums perforated, his tooth broken, by the criminals who kept him as a slave. Little wonder then that his trust in people is shattered. Lee from Vietnam doesn't want us to use his real name or show his face, and we've disguised his voice. After being trafficked to the UK, he was forced to work inside an illegal cannabis farm.
They beat me. They hit me in the face. If anything was to go wrong, they said they would lose £100,000, the value of the crop in the house, and then they'd cut my throat.
Lee was arrested and then convicted, despite telling the authorities he was a victim of trafficking. Halfway through his custodial sentence, he was placed in an immigration detention centre. The UK Home Office had mistaken him for another Vietnamese man they thought they'd already deported. That left Lee with lasting mental health problems.
Many times I wanted to commit suicide because I felt depressed and had too much pressure. I had nobody to talk to and didn't know what was going to happen to me.
Lee did win his case against the Home Office for false imprisonment, but his lawyer told us that victims are often treated as criminals by the authorities.
When they enter the UK and when they're here, they're then forced into criminality. And then finally, as happened in this case, when you're finally found by a public authority, for example the police, when you think that you're finally going to be saved, you're then in fact criminalised and then subsequently detained by the Home Office in an immigration detention centre.
Many victims of modern-day slavery are hidden in plain sight, controlled by those intent on exploitation. Last year in the UK, just over 3,600 suspected victims were identified. A recent report by After Exploitation found that in 2018, more than 500 suspected victims of trafficking were held in UK detention centres. And campaigners say that its role as an immigration enforcer often means the UK Home Office doesn't deal correctly with victims of trafficking.
Clearly, when a victim of trafficking is detained, this is horrific and should not be happening. There needs to be a clear separation of powers between people identifying victims of trafficking and immigration authorities.
Lee is still fighting to overturn his conviction. The Home Office says the government is committed to protecting the vulnerable and treating those in detention with dignity and respect. And it says decisions about detention and whether somebody is a victim of modern-day slavery are made on a case-by-case basis. Campaigners say the whole system needs an overhaul to ensure that cases like that of Lee don't happen again. Emma Hayward, Al Jazeera in London.